In this video, we are going to build an order confirmation or receipt email. So open up the example emails folder and open the Chewy receipt. Zoom in so we can have a look at this a bit closer. And again, this is a little bit different than the previous emails that we've built. It's a different layout and a little bit more information going on. But essentially, what we have here is a header area with a button, then a 2-column layout, and then essentially here we have a 1, 2, 3, 4-column layout with the products that they've ordered. Then we have a 2-column layout here with the shipping amounts and the total amounts for this order. Then we've got a footer again with a 1-column and a 4-column layout below. So let's go to Rapidweaver and see how we can build something like this. So we'll add a new stacks page. We'll call this the receipt email. And again, we need to add our style stack and do the implementation checklist. So we've done those 4 things. We just need to set the title and the slogan. So the title will be your order. We'll set the folder to be order. And then we'll say thanks for your order here. Okay, that'll do it. We'll check off those 2 items and then we're ready to build. So the first thing we need is a wrapper stack, as always. Then inside of there we need the 1-column stack, and we're going to put our logo in the header here at the very top of the page. So again, I go to our assets folder in the general. I'm going to select the RealMac image and drop that in here. And again, I've forgotten what size this image is, so we are 160 by 85. Like so. Then what we'll do is add some padding to this 1-column stack. So we'll do custom spacing. We'll set the top to be 20 and the bottom to be 20. And then on the wrapper stack, we'll also do custom padding. We'll set left to be 40 and right to be 40. And then we'll preview that just to make sure everything's working. Yeah, so we've now got our logo in the header area here. So if we have a look at preview, what we need to build next. So we've got our logo. We then need a header text and a button. Okay, so back to Rapidweaver again. Firstly, I'm going to center align that image. Then I'm going to add a header in below, then some text, and then a button. Okay, we're going to center align all of those. And I'm going to update this text to be thanks for your order. We'll leave that as the dummy text, but we will set the button to be radius and we'll just set the text to be your order. Okay, we'll go back to Safari and preview that, and instantly that's looking pretty good. So again, have a look into preview, see what we need to do next. So we need this 2-column kind of boxed layout in here. So let's have a look at how we would do that. So back to Rapidweaver, and what we'd need is a 2-column stack in below here. But what we want is a colored background for here. So we need to select this option and choose a light gray. Then we'll just put in some text in the left and the right, like so. But what we'll do is we'll collapse the margin on both of these options. Then what we'll do is some custom spacing, and we'll set this to be 20 and 20. Now when we go to preview, you can see we kind of have that box that they have in the preview here. We might want to make this background color a little bit lighter to match this, but we can have a look at doing that in a minute. What I do want to look at is how we could add a border like they have done here to this 2-column layout. Now this isn't actually a feature inside of the email stacks at the moment. There's nothing here that will allow us to apply a border to this box. So what we can do is add a custom class. So what I'm going to say is bordered for the class, and I'm going to add in the header tab here and then the CSS. I'm going to add that bordered class and set a border CSS property. So we'll say bordered, and then what we're going to do is say the border should be 1 pixel, should be solid, and we'll set this to be, let's say, a 10% black. Okay, now when we go back to preview and refresh, you'll see that we then get that 10% black bordered around there. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, this is only going to work with email clients that support CSS. So depending on who you're sending to or who your target audience is, will depend on whether you want to use something like this. Now, the email service you use will also attempt to inline your CSS when we look at exporting and importing our email templates later on in this course. However, you might see that this border is not applied in some email clients. Now, as I say, for Real Mac, we know that most people are on a Mac. They're using the Mail client that Apple give you. So we know that the CSS would be applied and they would actually see this border. So my advice is that if it's anything critical, you're probably going to need to do it with an image. However, if it's just something that adds a little bit of styling, just do it with the CSS class as I've shown you. And for people who can't see it, it won't make that much of a difference. Anyway, having said that, let's go back to preview and see what we need to build up next. So next we have this kind of a headed area here for the items that they've ordered. So this is essentially a 3-column layout. So we'll go and add that in Rapidweaver. Let me just first collapse down a couple of these columns so we can see what we're working on. And what we needed was this 3-column layout, and we need to set a custom background color. Now we're going to set something a little bit lighter, and I'm going to update it to be the same on the 2-column stack here. Okay. Then what we'll need to do is in between these 2 columns we'll want to add a spacer. So we'll do that, and we'll set the height to be 40 pixels. Then inside of here what we want is 3 headers, like so. Now the first header would say items, the second one was quantity, and the last one was price. What we'll do next is collapse the margins for these and set the type to be H6. Like so. Then what we'll do is go back to preview, and there you can see that we're starting to build up that similar layout. What we'll need to do is add a little bit of padding to this 3-column layout. So we'll go here, we'll add custom spacing, and we will say 20 pixels on the top and the bottom. And then we're starting to look a bit better. Now if we have a look at preview again, you'll see that the quantity and the price are kind of offset over to the right hand side. So the first column here, the items orders, takes up most of the space, and then we have 2 columns here that are a little bit smaller. So what we need to do is adjust the column sizing here. So we'll go to Rapidweaver, and then on the 3-column layout you'll see here that we have a small sizing and a large sizing control for these columns. So what this does is control the sizing on, say, an iPhone, and then the large sizing does the sizing on things like an iPad and up. So what we want to do is set the first column to be wider than the 2 other columns. So on the large sizing, set the first column to be 8, and then the second column to be 2, and the third column to be 2. And as you'll note here that the total cannot exceed 12 units. And that is because the columns are based upon a 12-column grid layout. So whenever you modify these, all these 3 must add up to 12. So here we have 8, 10 and 12. If we go back and preview that, you'll then see that the first column took up more space and the second and third are a little bit smaller. What we will want to do is set the alignment for these 2 to be right, like so. Okay, next let's have a look what we need to build. So we're now into the actual items that the customer has ordered. And in here we have a 4-column layout. So we have an image, what they've ordered, quantity and price. So let's go to Rapidweaver and build that. So we'll add a 4-column, and on the left was an image. Then we had perhaps the title or the description of the product. Then we had the quantity and the price. So the quantity here would be 1. The price might be $99.99. And then the header, let's say that they've brought Rapidweaver. And we'll add some text in below there. And we'll just say the best web design software for Mac. Like so. But what we will do is collapse the margin on all of these items. Okay, then what we need to do is set the image here. Just for now, we'll set a placeholder and we'll set this to be 50 by 50. Okay, if we preview that, it's not looking too bad. There is a bit too much spacing between the image and the product description, and these two items, the quantity and the price, don't line up with the header columns here. So let's have a look at how we do that now. So back to Rapidweaver, select the 4-column stack, and what we need to do is modify the sizing again. So for column 1, we'll set that to be 2 columns. Then for column 2, we'll set that to be 6. And then on columns 3 and 4, we'll also set that to be 2. So again, we can't exceed 12 units, and we haven't done. We've got 2, 6, so that's 8, 10, 12. Then what we'll do is go back to preview, and we can see that things are starting to line up a little bit better. What we do need to do is make sure that the alignment of these two items are correctly placed below these quantity and price headers. So to do that, we'll set the alignment here to be right and right. Now if we refresh, you'll see that they're starting to line up a little bit better. But what we'll probably actually want to do, now that I've thought about it, is set the alignment to be center for these two columns. So let's do that now. We'll set center aligned, and the same for the headers. And we'll go and refresh that, and now we're looking a lot better. The other thing we want to do is reduce the size of this Rapidweaver header and then add some padding here. So let's do that. We'll select the header. We'll set this to be an H5. And then on the columns, or the 4-column stack, we'll set the custom spacing to be 20 and 20. Then we'll refresh the preview, and now we're starting to look pretty good. The only thing I think we could do is just update the sizing of this image. Let's make it 75 by 75 and refresh that, and yeah, now we're looking pretty good. So if we have a look at our preview image here, we now essentially have this same layout. We've got the image, some text in between, and then the quantity and the price. All we'll want to do is add this divider in below here. So let's have a look at doing that. So to Rapidweaver, and the first way we could do it is just by dragging in a divider. Or actually, sorry, what we want to do is add a 1-column stack first, and then a divider in there. Now if we preview that, there we can see we get that divider. But what we'll want to do is remove the padding from this column. So we will set the custom spacing to be 0 and 0. Then we'll refresh, and that's looking pretty good. So what we can do now is just duplicate this 4-column layout in below the divider and refresh, and there you can see we're starting to build up that column, or that multiple rows of the products that they've purchased. So if we have a look at preview again, we're not going to duplicate it for all of these items. What we will do is just add this totals at the bottom here. So let's have a look at doing that now. Firstly, what we'll add is, or what we'll do is duplicate this divider. And what I'm going to do is just collapse the margin at the top and the bottom for both of these dividers. And that's because we've already added the padding to the 4-column stacks. So if we go back to Safari, you'll see the padding was a little bit large here. So I've collapsed the margin for that, just to remove the additional padding, and now the spacing looks a little bit better. Okay, anyway, let's have a look at doing those totals. So what we want is a 2-column stack in here, Then what we had was some text on the left and essentially some text on the right. Now on the left hand side we'll just do a couple of items. So we'll say subtotal, taxes, and then total, like so. And then on the right hand side we'll just put in some dummy amounts here. So we'll say 195, taxes can be 14.95, and then the total 200, something like that. Okay, what we want to do is set the alignment of the text in the left hand column to be right aligned, and we'll also want to make this bold. So we'll highlight all the text and select the bold style from here, and that will do us. I think if we go and preview that, there we can see that that's lining up nicely. But what we do want to do is have this right aligned over here. So to do that we will modify the column sizing for the two column stack here. So the first column is going to be 10 and the second column is going to be 2. Then if we preview that, that's starting to look pretty good. What we might want to do is add a bit of padding to this wrapper stack here. So again, custom spacing, set the padding to be 20 and 20. Refresh, and yeah, now we're looking pretty similar to the preview email here. I'll allow you to style this as you wish if you want to do colors and stuff like that, but I think what we've done here is pretty good. Okay, and I think that will do it for this email. We won't go ahead and build this because we've already built a similar layout in the previous videos. I'll allow you, if you want to, go ahead and add a 4-column layout here with this colored blue background into your email template. But as I say, for us, that will do it for this video. This is a pretty nice, pretty clean order confirmation email template. You could reuse this for your receipts or any type of cart interactions on your website. Okay, in the next video we're going to start looking at how we export our email templates and use them in email services such as MailChimp.